A stunning and prophetic event is about to occur, and it will shake the whole world. The Dome Demolition is a highly contentious and sensitive topic foretold in religious books for ages. So why are tensions escalating at the holy site of Jerusalem? Join us as we talk about the importance and possible effects of this huge event that could change the course of history forever and the political gamble going on. The Temple Mount is the location of the first and second temples in the Hebrew Bible, which were destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE and the Romans in 70 CE, respectively. The destruction of the Second Temple is regarded as a watershed moment in Jewish history, since it heralded the start of the Jewish Diaspora. The Bible also makes a reference to the Temple Mount in several prophecies, particularly in the book of Zechariah. In Zechariah chapter 14 verse 2, it is prophesied that, "I will gather all the nations to Jerusalem to fight against it. The city will be captured, the houses ransacked, and the women raped. Half of the city will go into exile, but the rest of the people will not be taken from the city." Some Christians take this prophecy to pertain to the Temple Mount's destruction in the end times when all nations would come against Jerusalem. They believe that the Dome of the Rock, which was built on the Temple Mount by Muslims in the 7th century CE, must be demolished in order for the Third Temple to be rebuilt. However, it is crucial to note that many other Christians and religious scholars interpret the prophecy differently, claiming that historical events such as the Babylonian and Roman invasions had already fulfilled it. The Dome of the Rock is regarded as one of the holiest locations in the Islamic world, second only to Mecca's Kaaba. It is thought to be the location where the Prophet Muhammad went to heaven, and it has long been a center of Muslim pilgrimage. So why are the tensions running high at the Jerusalem holy site? As they have done so many times before, the latest acts of violence at the most important holy site for Muslims and Jews in Jerusalem are making a lot of people angry. In one video shared on social media, it looks like highly armed Israeli police beat Palestinian worshippers who had locked themselves inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque with a rifle butt and sticks. Israeli police have shared their own video that seems to show Palestinians lighting up the prayer hall with fireworks that they threw. Tensions are already high in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, and officials and experts have been warning for months that a new round of violence could happen in this holy place at a very dangerous time. The Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and Haram al-Sharif is the third most important place in Islam. It is also called the Temple Mount, which is the most important place in Judaism. In the past, Palestinian worshippers and Israeli security forces have often fought at the complex, which led to more trouble. In May 2021, an Israeli raid here led to a full-scale war between Israel and Hamas, the Islamist militant group that runs the Gaza Strip that lasted 11 days. Last year was the first time in 30 years that the Islamic holy month of Ramadan and the week-long Jewish holiday known as Passover took place at the same time. As Israeli police cleared the courtyard before leading Jewish visitors into the property, there were violent scenes for several days. They also said that stones were thrown at the Western Wall, which is the holiest place for Jews to pray and is below the complex. All the holy events bring more people to the Old City. Official numbers show that this week, along with Israelis, about 60,000 tourists were set to visit the country. At the walls of Jerusalem's Old City, there had been a happy buzz in the air over the past few days. Palestinians were happy that there were so many people at prayers on the second Friday of Ramadan. According to the Islamic Waqf, which runs the site, about 250,000 people were there. The Israeli government led about 70,000 Palestinians from the West Bank into Jerusalem. Thousands of Christians also came to the Mount of Olives on Sunday for the Palm Sunday parade. This was good, but politicians are always the ones who can start a fire. That's what everyone's afraid of. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built on the site where Christians believe Jesus was crucified, buried, and resurrected. Before the violence on Wednesday morning, Hamas asked worshippers to lock themselves in the Al-Aqsa Mosque to stop Jewish extremists from trying to resurrect a biblical custom by sacrificing a goat there for Passover. After Ramadan prayers, a few hundred Palestinians locked themselves in the mosque and started fighting with Israelis. Israeli cops quickly got rid of most of them, but dozens stayed inside. Police said that what happened next was a violent riot by lawbreakers and troublemakers who desecrated the mosque. Israeli attacks on worshippers were called a crime by Palestinian leaders who said that a red line had been broken. Militants in Gaza reacted quickly by firing rockets at southern Israel. This made Israeli warplanes bomb Hamas sites in Gaza. Jordan and Egypt, which were both involved in recent U.S.-backed efforts to ease tensions between Israel and the Palestinians, were also very critical of Israel's moves. Now, people are more worried about more fights in the coming days, especially if Israeli officials like the far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir show up, or if Israeli police let Jewish activists pray at the sensitive site, which would break fragile rules that have been in place for decades. Gvir visited the Temple Mount in January, making his first visit to the sacred site. The visit happened just hours after it was said that Ben-Gvir had decided to delay the trip after meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This was despite criticism from the opposition and threats from the terror group Hamas, which runs the Gaza Strip. During his visit, Ben-Gvir said that the Israeli government wouldn't give in to Hamas's threats because it was a murderous group and dangerous terrorist group. The most important place for Israelis is the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is open to everyone, including Jews, Christians, and Muslims. If I'm in charge, there won't be any discrimination based on race. The Temple Mount will be climbed by Jews. We keep Muslims and Christians free to move around, but Jews can also go up to the site, and those who make threats must be dealt with an iron fist, the minister said at the end of his visit, which lasted about 15 minutes and ended without any problems. Ben-Gvir, whose ministry is in charge of police, went there after meeting with security and police officials to talk about the situation, according to a statement from his office. After meeting with Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir met with the head of Shin Bet, Ronen Bar, as well as the police commissioner, Kobi Shabtai, and the chief of the Jerusalem district, who determined that there was no obstacle to the visit, according to a statement. Security officials who took part in figuring out what was going on thought that giving in to threats would be a reward for terror and give people a reason to attack Israel, the statement said. Neither the cops nor the Shin Bet had anything to say about it. Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir talked about Gvir's plan to visit the spot. The conversation was not shared with the press. Ben-Gvir's office said in a statement that he would visit the Temple Mount in the coming weeks after their meeting. According to reports in Hebrew media, the two decided that Ben-Gvir would not visit the Flashpoint site for now, but Likud claimed that this was not true. Instead, it said that after talking with security officials, Netanyahu didn't tell the far-right minister to not come at all. Palestinian Authorities' foreign ministry said that the visit was an unprecedented provocation. In a statement, the PA said, Netanyahu is to blame for this attack on Al-Aqsa. Jews worship the Temple Mount because it was the site of the two Jewish temples in the past. This makes it the holiest place in Judaism. It's also the third holiest site for Muslims, who call it the Noble Sanctuary or the Al-Aqsa Mosque Complex. Provocations and fights at the spot have often spread to involve more people. Ben-Gvir's visit took place on the 10th of Tevet, which is a Jewish day of fasting to remember the events that led to the fall of the temple. Gilad Karif said that Ben-Gvir's choice showed that he put the promotion of an extreme nationalistic worldview ahead of the safety of Israeli citizens. Especially on the fast day, it is important to remember that the temple was destroyed because of the link between political extremism, power addiction, and government corruption. Israel's future can only be guaranteed if these things are fought against. Ben-Gvir, who has been to the Temple Mount many times before, said that he planned to go there as a minister for the first time. Hamas told Israel that Ben-Gvir's visit to the Temple Mount would be a detonator and promised to fight back. While the Haaretz newspaper said that diplomats from several Arab countries that were not named called Jerusalem to express their worry about Ben-Gvir's planned visit, they said that Ben-Gvir's trip could make the security situation worse in Jerusalem, the West Bank, and the wider region, and that is what happened. They pointed out that Passover and Ramadan will happen at the same time again this year, and that extreme statements and actions by senior officials of the new government, along with a sense of desperation on the Palestinian side, may take their toll. When Ben-Gvir said he was going to visit, the opposition attacked him. Opposition leader Yair Lapid said that such a visit would cost lives and asked Netanyahu to stop it. Ben-Gvir is in charge of one of Netanyahu's new coalition's three far-right groups. The new national security minister has been called an agitator for a long time. As an activist and Knesset member, he went to the Temple Mount several times and led controversial nationalist marches through the Muslim quarter in Jerusalem's Old City. On more than one occasion, he set up a temporary office in the Sheikh Jarrah area of East Jerusalem, which has also been at the center of tensions between Israelis and Palestinians, and has been a source of trouble. Before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, he went to the Temple Mount about 3 months ago. Even though Ben-Gvir talked a lot about the problem before the elections, he agreed with Netanyahu to keep things the same at holy sites, including the Temple Mount, before the new government took office. Ben-Gvir has been pushing for a formal change to the Temple Mount status quo for a long time. Muslims can pray and enter the Temple Mount with few restrictions, while Jews can only visit during limited time slots through a single gate and walk on a set path while being closely watched by police. Jews aren't allowed to pray at the site, but Copts have been letting more and more quiet prayer happen there over the past few years. Palestinians and most of the rest of the world are strongly against any changes to the current situation. Most Palestinians are also against any Israeli Jews being at the site, even if they are there to keep things safe. Netanyahu has tried to reassure Israel's allies that he won't let anything change, and he made sure that all his coalition agreements included a clause that says the status quo with regard to the holy places will be kept. Critics, on the other hand, say that the policy is slowly falling apart. They say this because Israeli police have seen Jewish visitors praying quietly at the site while they watch. Dr. Mustafa Abu Sway, an Islamic expert and member of the Islamic Waqf Council in Jerusalem, said that we are always worried about Jewish extremists trying to change the status quo. He said that the last 10 days of Ramadan, which end with Laylat el-Qadr, the Night of Power, are especially important. In the past, as a colonial power, Israel stopped Jewish extremists from getting in during these last 10 days. But with this kind of government, we worry that they will let it happen, he said. Israeli officials say they'll act to protect freedom of worship at the religious site, which is very important to both Israeli and Palestinian nationalism stories. Muslims think that this is where the Prophet Muhammad went to heaven, and Jews respect it because it was the site of 2 biblical temples, one of which was burned by the Romans. And that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And we'll see you in the next video.